Winston Cup Racing from Dover International Speedway, brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always. By Energizer, you have the bunny inside, and by Miller Lite.
Good evening, folks. Once again, it is the Wookie recording his rambles and thoughts from his creaky old couch. Let's see, get some of that audio. Well, anyways, yeah, Dover happened. Fall Dover racing, once again, it was pretty cool. Thought it was going to be a hot one. It was pretty toasty when we got there on Thursday, but it ended up turning to be a pretty cool weekend. At least when I was there for the Xfinity. Ended up having a lot of mist and rain showers. K&N race got delayed till Saturday morning, like 9 o'clock in the morning. And then Xfinity qualifying got delayed a little bit and ended up being one-round qualifying. Ended up with only two, Cup qualifying got canceled. So it was a pretty cool weekend all week, which, big guy like me, I'm not complaining. Definitely had my run-ins with the heat earlier this year. But anyways, quick recap. Had 3 cars once again on the Xfinity side. Chad once again got his composite car fixed from his Bristol crash. Went out there, had a pretty fast car, qualified 26. Timmy was in all blue, the old Dodge, and then had Carl in the car we've kind of coined Dan Marino, the teal car. That it's got those Miami Dolphins colors, and the fact that Marino's number was 13. So it's become a kind of a joke at the shop that we've called this car Dan Marino. But anyways, those 3 were running. Carl, of course, was starting park, just ran around, ran the first segment, and then came in. The Chad, meanwhile, had some issues in the first segment. Broke a shock mount off the rear of the car. So they went in, tried fixing it, tried getting him out there. He made up a couple spots past Carl and Harmon. And unfortunately, it wasn't going to be really safe to drive. So those were the 2 spots he was going to get. So he went ahead, came in. Timmy, meanwhile, we were planning on running him the entire race in Old Blue. Finished 27th, not bad. Just tires kind of bit us. We're running on scuffs the entire race. We had tried staying out after the first segment, getting a lap back, and actually put us ahead of the guys we were running against. And then thought we were going to make it. We were trying to make it to the second segment. We thought we were going to be about 5 laps short of fuel, and then ended up being 5 laps before that. Had a right front tire come apart, so we ended up having to make an early stop. And then that just put us really off segment with everybody. But we basically went out and ran around and got ourselves a solid little finish in the 20s in the 66 car. It's what we needed. We needed to gap the 74 car, and we accomplished what we needed to do with that car. Not next week, but the week after, the next Xfinity race, Bobby Dale Earnhardt's making his grand debut, running 142. Pretty solid little downforce car. I would say it's definitely a better car than the car we ran Bobby in last year. So hopefully Bobby has a good run, learned some stuff. He's kind of been out of the seat this year. He's run some dirt modified races a bunch. But anyways, hopefully we give Bobby a good run. And we got a pretty solid old steel body car for him to run, so there's that. And for those who are wondering, 142 is that white, or that blue Toyota, painted the same color as the old blue Dodge. Stan ran it at Las Vegas as a starting park. But anyways, points-wise, we end up losing a couple points to the 45. It's kind of unfortunate. They barely passed us after last weekend, and of course gapped us a little bit. So hopefully we can get that back at Kansas. that. And that was Dover's just a really rough place on suspension components. 9 times out of 10, you'll see track bars when the suspension components fail. It's the track bar mount. It'll pull out of the truck arm on the left side usually, or it'll pull the threads out. And then it's a place that you'll see sway bar heims pulled threads out. I was back in 2014 with the 72 car. We actually pulled the splines out on the sway bar arm, just doing a starting park. So, yeah, it's just a really rough place. And heck, we saw it today in the Cup race with Jimmy Johnson breaking a ball joint on the pace laps. It's just great. It's just a really rough place. And we weren't the only ones. 76 car, Spencer Boyd, he had suspension issues. Probably one of their older Turner cars. I know over at Daughters, they had some issues last year at Dover with those Turner cars with the shock towers in the rear. And it's just a weak point on those chassis. But anyways, and I know because our old Turner car, we did the same thing at the same track. So during the same race, it was like 3 or 4 cars with the old Turner cars. We ripped the shock towers out of the rear. So, but anyways, it was kind of typical Dover Xfinity race, just kind of clean and green for much of it. Christopher Bell put on a SmackDown, was the one to beat. Thought Cole Custer might have had something for him, but once again, bridesmaid finished second place. Justin Allgaier finished third, keeping his he's really, after the disappointment he's had, he's really got to point his way back up, but he's back second in points, so kind of getting himself a little safe after the rough start he had to his chase. And then Ryan Preece, once again back in the 18 Craftsman Toyota. Big news last week, he's going to Cup time, full-time next year in the 47 car. So he basically finishing off his pretty good season he's had running part-time for Gibbs. He's got 1 win at Bristol and a bunch of top 5s, and he got another one this week in 4th place. How about Spencer Gallagher been running part-time this year with a 5th place? So good for that car. Brandon Jones had a pretty quick car, ended up finishing 6th. Daniel Hemrick started on pole and got, once again, real fast at the start of the race and then faded at the end. So it's just kind of how his year's been. Austin Cindric finished 8th. John Hunter Nemechek back in the 42 car finished 9th. Ryan Truex 10th. Elliott Sadler kind of wasn't really a factor today. On Saturday. Finished 11th. Michael Annett, pretty good run for him, 12th. Ross Chastain, probably top independent once again, finished 13th. Look down at the highlights. Ryan Sieg with an 18th place finish. Chase Briscoe came back from, and then old Ross needed to race his way to get in. Turned Matt Tifton, turned the 60 car of Chase Briscoe and got Briscoe in the wall, kind of up the right side of the car a little bit, but came back, finished 19th. That poor 60 car, it just, most of these wrecks have not been their fault. It's just a horrific luck they've had this year. It's just the kind of season they've had. Alex LeBay finished 21st. Brandon Brown finished in 22nd. And then David Starr with 24th place finish in the Jimmy Means mobile. Vinnie Miller with a pretty good run in BJ's car, finishing 25th. He actually came back from a loose wheel to finish 25th. And then Landon Castle, 26th, and Timmy, 27th. Bailey Curry had like a cut tire on the starter race. Ended up many laps down at the start and just behind from the start. And ended up finishing 29th. And Josh Bilicki tore up. And they only really got 2 cars in rotation right now. And they absolutely destroyed that one car. Kind of set off the end of it went clean and green for much of the race. And then lap 163, Josh blew a right rear tire. And that thing actually exploded. It tore the quarter window out of the car. It just, it tore the greenhouse. yeah, that thing's gonna need a whole body. So it's gonna be tough for them to try to get that thing back going again, because that's gonna be an expensive fix, and especially with the only was it four races left with these steel body cars. So yeah, I that's gonna be a hard one to justify the fix, but you're gonna have to do it because it's gonna cost so much more to fix a composite car. So, and then Jerry's kind of burnt a lot of bridges this year. And then poor old Mike Harmon, just absolutely disaster of a weekend for him. Missed first practice. They had ignition issues, couldn't make it out, and then they went back out. Went to go out second practice, and then before he even took a lap, car shut off, brought it into the garage area. Couldn't figure out what's going on. Went to push it out real quick, and there was a big old puddle of oil, and turns out it spat the rods out of the bottom. So then they slammed to get the thing back together, and of course they missed all that practice, and they were slow, and it's just unfortunate. And ended up finishing 20, got parked, finished 35th. And that was pretty much, really not much to talk about for Xfinity Series this week. It's just the way it... You just kind of have these dull races from time to time. So right now, chase points, Christopher Bell with a 5-point lead over Justin Allgaier. Daniel Hemrick is in third, almost a full race back with 31 points back. And then fourth place is tied Elliott Sadler, Cole Custer. And this was a cutoff race. And then Tyler Reddick in sixth. Matt Tifft, Austin Cindric round up your round of 8. So 3 races to go, and then we get our final 4 getting cut out in this round. Ross Chastain, the Cinderella story. Brandon Jones in the paid 19 car. Ryan Reed and Ryan Truex, who haven't really been any factors, but have just been there. So, anyways, and then look at that non-playoff points. Not real much different. Christopher Bell would have a 20-point lead over Justin Allgaier. Still a pretty close tight points battle. It can swing where Bell gets himself a full race ahead, or Allgaier swings it back into his direction. So that's about 4 races left. That's kind of still a tight points battle right there. And then Cole Custer, 38 points back. That's right at being a full race back. But still, not kind of nice. He would be third in points. And Daniel Hemrick, fourth. And then Elliott Sadler back in fifth in points. And then Elliott's like the last guy that's within 100 points. He's 76 points back. And then there's just a complete drop-off. Tyler Reddick would be 6th in points, 254 points back. And it's because that top 5 has really been what we've had for guys who've been competing. Reddick had a horrible summer. That's why he's 6th in points. Brandon Jones has just been there. Matt Tifft has just been there. Ryan Truex has just been there. Ross Chastain is... Yeah, everyone's just been there, other than blips here and there. Ross Chastain, of course, running those 3 races for Ganassi, got a win at Las Vegas. That's just the way it is. Looking down at the points, Alex Labate would be 16th in points right now. That's pretty good for that DGM entry. Probably, I think that's been their best. This has definitely been their best year so far. Labate's, of course, really good on those road courses, and adding the extra road course at the Roval this year kind of played into their strengths. And then Gallagher is still 18th in points, despite missing about half the races. John Hunter Nemechek, same way. Garrett Smithley, pretty good. He's definitely the number 2 guy over at JD, but he's been really picked it up this year. Unless someone comes up with a lot of money to go over JD next year, I see Garrett being the top dog over there, just kind of filling the role where Ross was. And then Joey Gase quietly sitting 20th, about where he runs a little better than he did. Definitely a lot more reliable than when he was at Jimmy Means's. But this is probably about where he's been at points-wise when he was at Jimmy Means's. And then I just really shouldn't really say that, considering that he blew an engine this weekend, a rare engine failure. I'm pretty sure they're still on RCR power over there. But and then Joey, really bad kept secret. He'll be in Cup Series as a Rookie of the Year next year. Rookie of the Year competitors. Had to get a drink. So let's move on. Let's move on. Next week is 2 weeks times Kansas. Let's just sort of run our way down the points or races we've had. Modifieds, and that was a week ago. I don't know why that still says new. Anyways, last night, or yesterday morning, we'll start off with this one. The Crosley Brands 125 delayed by 1 day due to the rain, persistent rain on Friday night. The final race of the year for the K&N East Series. Ruben Garcia Jr. absolutely dominated, won over Brandon McReynolds. Didn't really have anything for him, but still a good run for the 74 Visconti team. Derek Kraus running a third car for David Gilliland, finished third. Sam Mayer in the MDM ride, kind of a late entry of the year, finished fourth. Yeah, he ran Bristol, he ran Watkins Glen and Dover, so he's kind of a late. He's been running some ARCA races too. Harrison Burton fifth, Anthony Alfredo finished sixth, Ryan Vargas seventh, Chase Cabre eighth, Ronnie Bassett ninth, and then Dylan Bassett multiple laps down in 10th. And then everybody else kind of had problems. On the start of the race, there was a pretty hard crash between Colin Garrett and the Sam Hunt. Peyton Sellers entry. Got loose off turn 4 and got T-boned by Juan Manuel Gonzalez, running for Next Gen. And then Todd Gilliland probably had the next best car. He was better than Ruben Garcia Jr. And then got kind of shuffled back on a restart, strategy and restart, and then ended up getting crossed up coming off a 4, hitting the inside retaining wall pretty hard. And then Tristan Van Weergen running the second Rhett Jones entry, or the primary Rhett Jones entry, because Spencer Davis ended up running a start and park entry after he wrecked his primary the day before. Tristan had a crash too. But yeah, and then that was a pretty solid race. But there was still only 17 cars. Tyler Ankrum is your champion with a dominating 84 points over Tyler Dipple. Those two are definitely the class of the field. Dipple kind of got into it with Ankrum the race before at Loudon, New Hampshire. Ended up getting fired from that seat. Still, he missed like 2 or 3 races and still finished second on points. That's just how good those Gilliland cars have been this year. Ruben Garcia Jr. with the win puts him third in points. Ronnie 85 points back. Ronnie Bassett Jr. is fourth. Anthony Alfredo, your next best, is your next best. Because Ankrum is was a rookie. Second place rookie of the year contender Anthony Alfredo in the top MDM entry this year. Had 1 win this year, finished 5th. Ryan Vargas for Rev Racing finished 6th. Chase Cabre, also running for Rev, finished 7th in points. Dylan Bassett in the family entry finished 8th. Spencer Davis, kind of a new deal he put together for this year, finished 9th in points. And then Colin Garrett in the Peyton Sellers Sam Hunt entry finished 10th on the year. So, and we will get back to the K&N later because there was some news that came out. Moving on, the ARCA, and this also pertains to ARCA, and I'm sure many of you already know about this. This is the rescheduled Shore Lunch 200 at Lucas Oil Raceway. Got rained out last month. It tried raining out again, but they got it in. Christian Eckes with a dominating win once again. Driving the 15 for Venturini Motorsports, led 171 laps, winning over Sheldon Creed. His teammate Chandler Smith finished third.
Chase Purdy in the MDM entry finished 4th. And then Carson Hocevar, kind of a super late model standout from the Midwest, finished 5th. Zane Smith finished 6th. Sam Mayer, actually, him and Harrison Burton actually flew over to IRP to run this race after running the Dover race first thing in the morning. Sam finished 7th. Harrison finished 21st due to the suspension issues. Riley Herbst finished 8th in the Gibbs entry. Tom Hessert filling in for Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe was supposed to run this race originally, but had commitments with in the Xfinity Series. So Tom Hessert kind of came out of semi-retirement to run, returning to Chad Bryant Racing. Finished 9th in the second Chad Bryant entry. And then Gus Dean finished in 3rd. Pretty decent little field this 25 cars. Yeah, you had 4 starting parks. Of course, your normal Brad Smith, Peterson 06 car, the Basham 34, and then the second Kimmel entry, the 68. But it had some pretty good good entries. Some notable entries in the field. As for mentioned, Tom Hessert, the 22, Michael Self in the 11, or the 55, he finished 11th. Tyler Hill, Timmy's younger brother, finished 14th, only 3 laps down. Pretty good run. Outran the higher funded entries by Thad Moffitt in the Petty Development 46 car, and then Natalie Decker in the 25. So pretty good run for Tyler. And then Bobby Gerhart, of course, always runs this race, mostly because of Lucas Oil. Finished 17th, 5 laps down. And then actually Empire running 2 cars this race, the Thad Moffitt, and then Caden Honeycutt ran the second car to 43. And then Jonas Fors, Swedish driver, running for the Kimmel 69, would finish 19th. And then another super late standout, CJ McLaughlin, would finish 20th. And it's basically, and then we had a bunch of withdraws. DL Wilson was supposed to run a car for Hillenberg. Eric Caudell was supposed to run for Hickson, and I think they killed a car at Salem, so that's why he did not run. And Dale Basham was actually entered in the 0 car for Peterson, but that didn't come through. And Rick Clifton was actually supposed to run the 11, but had commitments, so that's how McLaughlin got the nod. So their next race is in 2 weeks in Kansas. And I'm pretty sure Sheldon Creed's pretty much locked up that championship. Also last night, Bathurst 1000, probably one of the greatest races of the year. Probably in his last Bathurst 1000, veteran superstar Craig Lowndes, of course, got the win. Really, really awesome to see him get that win. A real popular win. I think that's 7 Bathurst 1000s. 3rd on the all-time list for Bathurst 1000 wins. And his first actual overall win for any V8 supercar event in a couple of years. So good to see him get probably one of the biggest win of the year back in victory lane. Real popular win. Jamie Whincup had to bounce back from lost a tire on the front stretch. And of course, they got penalized too, so that's going to kind of hurt him in points. And then I believe Scott McLaughlin ended up finishing 2nd. So it was actually a pretty tame race. They had a little bit of rain at the start, but a couple of single car accidents, but nothing real major this year. Nothing wild and zany that we've seen in the past, like Fabian Coulthard barrel rolling down through the chase, or was that I forgot who was in that Dick Johnson, that Jim Beam car that hit going up into turn 1, or after that first long straightaway going up into the mountain, backed into the tires, and ripped the fuel cell out of the car. But yeah, Bathurst is definitely a place that's known for being wild and zany because it is a crazy, crazy track. They built that place on the side of a mountain, and yeah, that is their Indy 500, their Daytona 500, and it's a race that really needs to get more eyes on it worldwide. Also in the wee hours, F1 running the Honda Japanese Grand Prix at the famous Suzuka circuit, and this was a Lewis Hamilton smackdown, winning over Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen. Daniel Ricciardo came back from a engine failure in qualifying to finish 4th. Kimi Räikkönen finished 5th. Sebastian Vettel, once again, just the whole completely throwing his season away, just making these mistakes. Tried cutting in on Max Verstappen and spun himself and almost took Verstappen along with him. I really wanted to see Vettel come back for win the championship, but he's been his own worst enemy this year, unfortunately. And then running up the points, Sergio Perez running for Force India in 7th, Romain Grosjean in the Haas in 8th, Esteban Ocon for Force India in 9th, and old Carlos Sainz running for Renault in 10th. And then we had a couple little moments. Kevin Magnussen got rear-ended by Ocon, or I think it was Ocon. No, I think it was Leclerc early in the race. Took out his tire, and then that was on the front stretch, and Magnussen kind of limped around for a few laps and ended up having to park it. Nico Hülkenberg had a rear-end failure. And then Charles Leclerc, going to Ferrari next year, had a pretty good run regardless of the contact with Magnussen, and then had a suspension failure, spun it into the dirt, and in his day. I believe Austin is next. Hamilton with a 67-point lead over Vettel. He just has to completely retire from the next few races, and Vettel has to win. It's Hamilton's championship again. As much as I hate to say it. Bottas is a little further back, 124 points back in 3rd. Räikkönen 4th. Verstappen 5th. Ricciardo 6th. Perez, Magnussen, and Hülkenberg in a 3-way tied for 7th. And then Fernando Alonso actually sitting 10th in points. So I would not have suspected that. But he's got a 1-point lead over Esteban Ocon, so there's that. And getting to the Cup race today at Dover. And, yeah, this is kind of a snoozer. Kevin Harvick absolutely dominated for most of the race. And then green flag pit stops. The last green flag pit stops with like 70 laps to go. Actually had a lug nut knock off a valve stem on the tire. Had to come back in, change left sides again. Came back from being a lap down, finished 6th. Kyle Busch, same round of pit stops, thought he was going to inherit it. Ended up having to come back in for a speeding penalty. Came back to finish 8th. And it just got really wacky at the end. Looked like Eric Almirola was going to absolutely dominate. And then, 60 laps to go, we had debris. Ross Chastain had looked like a rear end failure, and it shot the right side axle shaft out the side of the car. Bounced down the track, brought out a caution. Joey Logano actually hit it and tore a hole in the side of his car. But and then it went green for a while, and then Clint Bowyer thought he had a loose wheel, thought it was a track bar broken. They checked everything checked out, sent him back out, ran up the speed for 5 more laps, thought it was fixed, and then something broke in the front end and absolutely annihilated the outside retaining wall, hard crash. And then we had the restart. Almirola came in pit. Guys behind him, pit 2. Some guys stayed out.
Elliott stayed out. Hamlin stayed out. I think Eric Jones stayed out too, and Alex Bowman and Martin Truex. So Almirola looked like he was going to fight his way back towards the front, and then had a bobble off of two, hit the outside chain wall, came back down across the track, got into Brad Keselowski, spun him across the track, caused a big wreck, took out Martin Truex, Alex Bowman, threw the red flag, and then Chase Elliott just pretty much had this win land in his lap. So good. Here we go. Ringing the siren once again, punching his ticket into the round of 8. So, and then Danny Hamlin trying to break his drought, ended up finishing second. Joey Logano quietly finished in third. Eric Jones quietly finished in fourth. Kurt Busch looked like he was going to finish second. Might have been a pretty good duel between him and Almirola, but unfortunately that Boyer caution kind of threw that all out the window. Still finished fifth. Harvick came back, finished sixth. Austin Dillon finished seventh. Pretty good run for him. And then Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. coming back from early race contact at the outside retaining wall, finished ninth, and Daniel Suarez in 10th. And then, let's see, we got any notables. Regan Smith are in 21st, Matt Kenseth in 20th, Allmendinger in 22nd, Bubba Wallace in 23rd, David Reagan 24th, and it's kind of so on and so on. And a kind of disappointment for Timmy Hill in the 66th entry. Sounds like we broke an input shaft 35 laps into the race. Real disappointing, but this was definitely probably would have finished about 36. It was just not that much of an attrition. You had Chastain with the rear gear issue, and Harrison Rhodes making his return in the 52 car, finished 38th. He probably would have finished 37, 36. Just the way things fell. It was just a clean and green race. Looking at the chase points, Harvick with a 5-point lead over Kyle Busch. Of course, Elliott would sit in first because of the seeding. But anyways, Martin Truex Jr. third, Logano fourth, Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch tied for sixth. Ryan Blaney sitting with a 10-point advantage over Clint Bowyer and Eric Almirola. Carl Larson is sitting. Do the math in my head. It was like 33 points out, and then Larson is 12 points out. Bowman is 33 points out. Bowman has to win and get in. The other guys looking like they can still possibly point their way in. Looking at the non-playoff standings, Kevin Harvick would have this deficit that Kyle Busch has had for most of the year chopped down to 24 points. So this is starting to shape up to be a pretty non-playoff standings. Starting to shape up to be a pretty close points battle between these two guys. Truex Jr. looking like he might be out of it at this point. He would be 147 points back. Kurt Busch 171 points back in fourth, and then Logano 198 points back, and then just so on and so on. Keselowski, Larson, Bowyer, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney. So, talking points. We had some big ones. So I try to get the talking points in front of me here. But we had some big news coming out about the future for the K&N Pro Series and ARCA. So I'm scrolling through here to try to bring it back up. Don't mind me as I'm trying. I should have had this pulled up before, and I did not because I'm an idiot. Here's the details. Basically, there will now be 4 divisions at that level. The K&N Pro West Series and the K&N East Series will still exist,
and they will feature 6 to 8 events, all on short tracks under a mile. And as explained, well within their regional footprint. So looking like probably West Series, you probably have Tucson, probably the Bull Ring at Las Vegas. Here's hoping. Then Kern County, Irwindale if it's still around, probably Roseville, and then probably Evergreen, Spokane, and possibly Meridian. I know it's probably more than the number I just said, but those are the most likely. East Series, now that one gets a little more funky. Because Greenville is going to dirt because they can't afford to pave the track, so that eliminates Greenville. Probably, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Not Orange County. South Boston, that's the one I'm thinking of. South Boston, probably Bristol. I'm trying to think. What else do we got? Probably New Smyrna, possibly Five Flags if they bring that back. I'm trying to think of events that fit this. East Series, I don't know, because now you're probably eliminating Dover, Loudon, and possibly some road courses. So you probably bring back Orange County, probably bring back Hickory, maybe. Concord, but that's just kind of, I don't know. That one, the East Series, I don't really think is as set in stone. And then what ARCA is going to turn into, you got the ARCA Racing Elite Series presented by Menards. Kind of curious that they kept that ARCA name. Will pretty much continue as is. At least half of it will be on speedways over 1 mile. That include traditional companion events in both ARCA and Pro Series. So now it gets a little more funky. So are they saying that? So now it's looking like you're going to combine, like they do the East-West Series races at Gateway in Iowa. Looking like we're going to do that now with the K&N Series. So probably Iowa will be a East-West ARCA event. Maybe the same with Gateway will probably be the same. Although it does specify a mile. Gateway is 1.25 miles. Yeah, that now we're getting a little funky with the definitions here. And then now there's a 4th championship they're calling the Stock Car Invitational. It will consist of running approximately 10 races of the Elite Series. So now it's talking about, okay, now I read this, now I'm going to go back to the ARCA, the Elite Series. Least on speed, make 20 races with at least half on speedways over 1 mile that include traditional companion events for ARCA and Pro Series. So what that looks like it's talking about, now that I've read on a little bit, is looking like that's got half those races are going to be the companion events with the larger events. Your Chicago's, your Daytona, your Talladega, your Kansas, and this will throw in Loudon and Dover in there now too. Try to think of what else we got. Your Gateway, probably they may throw in Iowa over there. So this shakes things up a little bit. Now you're talking about ARCA guys going all the way out over to New Hampshire. Dover is they did New Jersey for many years, so that's not really anything out of the realms for them. And then your Poconos. Oh God, your Poconos. Now the 4th championship is considered the Stock Car Invitational, which consists of the remaining 10 races of the Elite Series and be on premier short tracks that have long been a part of ARCA and K&N Pro Series. To be eligible for this championship, in this 3-way combination series, East, West must compete in a minimum number of races across those series. So looking like it's going to be ARCA Short Track Challenge still, and they're just going to consider that its own points battle. I don't know. There's some weird stuff going on. because ARCA's always done the short track battle. You Bill France 4 Crown, you Super Speedway Challenge, all that. It's just a big publicity thing. It's an extra trophies and stuff. Get some talking points going on. Now you're just throwing all sorts of crazy stuff in there to include the K&N guys. It's gotten probably a little more convoluted than it needs to be. But, I don't know. It'll probably become clearer defined as we get to that in 2020. Because next year they'll still do what they've been doing in the final year. The chassis and the body will be roughly the same across 4 championships. This is where it is right now. Of course, you still got your steel bodies in ARCA. They're supposed to be phased out. They were supposed to have been phased out this year, but they kept them for one more year. They phased out the 105 chassis instead, the old Busch cars. So it's just the old 110s, which is the old Cup cars. But those are supposed to be gone after this year. And then I think K&N is supposed to be going to also next year the new body, fully on the new body style. They brought back the steel bodies for that dirt race in Las Vegas, but that was just a one-time thing. They still got the one-piece composite bodies, the old style composite bodies that look like the old steel bodies. I believe this is the last year for those bodies. So, yeah, by the time 2020 rolls around, bodies and chassis are going to be the same across all 4 series. That's why they both series took on that 5-star COT body. But they really need to update those bodies because both the Ford Fusion, which is going out, the Chevy SS, which hasn't been in production for 1 or 2 years, and then the Toyota Camry, which is like the 2013 Toyota Camry. So we really need to update those bodies, guys. Especially when Toyota updates their noses every couple of years on the Camrys, and then give Chevys the Camaros. Because they've been trying to run the Camaros over in late models for a while. Trying to get those noses Ford run the Mustang, because you're not going to have any Ford Fusions because they're killing off all their cars except for the Mustang, which is probably got a move that's probably going to get reversed in a couple of years because, Ford's making some kind of dumb decisions right now. But anyways, chassis will be the same. Bodies will be the same. East and West will run the existing engine package. That is the spec Roush engine they've run for like 10 years or something like that. Teams competing in the Stock Car Invitational title must race with the same engine they use in Elite or Pro Series. So, you have to, if you're an ARCA driver, you have to use your Ilmor. If you're an East driver, you have to run your Roush engine. So that now you got those 2 engines competing against each other. That now it's getting really weird. Why? Now you're forcing it. Drivers must be 15 years old to compete in Pro Series East and West, as well as Invitational, but must be 18 years old to compete in Elite Series, which is because of insurance reasons, because of those big tracks. So that makes sense. But so they're trying to keep the East and West and ARCA separate still, but they're gonna run more companion events. They got this new series, which is, I guess, companion events, and between all 3, and now it's getting weird. It's just getting really, like I said, it's probably gonna get clearer defined in the future, but I don't really know what's up anymore. It's just complete and utter craziness. We got this going on, so we will find out more as we get closer to it. It's just the way things are.
it's just, yeah, I don't know. I'm on board with about half of it, and then the other half, I'm like, I don't really understand what's going on. Make sure that my microphone didn't come unplugged there. Sorry about that. But anyways, so that was pretty much the big talking point I had this week. Yeah. So this week, I might as well do coming up. I really don't got much to talk about. So let's preview what we got coming up next. We got Cup and Trucks running at Talladega. You thought the Roval was crazy. You got traditional craziness at Talladega coming up. Talking points for Cup Series. Just expect to be 41, 42 cars there. Obaika will be there trying to make their Cup debut. I guess they got front row. I saw a little bit that front row was helping them. I'm assuming that is the BK bunch, the 23 car that's kind of been being fielded by front row now, using the old BK equipment. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's helping them out. So, but anyways, Obaika and Cup. What a glorious day to be alive. Xfinity Series is off for a week. Camping World Trucks in Talladega. Well, everything's winding down. Pinty Series ended last week. K&N East finished this week. This coming week, K&N West races at the All-America Speedway, a tight little quarter mile over in Roseville, California. It's kind of in the same vicinity as Fontana. So, 2 more races left on that schedule. Derek Thorne with a 32-point lead over teammate Ryan Partridge and McAnally driver Derek Kraus, or Cole Rouse. Derek Kraus is about 39 points back in 4th. And then Haley Deegan, top rookie driver, sitting 5th in points, coming off her first and pretty significant win. She'll be in a truck at some point next year, probably for either Gilliland or KBM. It would be stupid for money not to get behind her, because that is just a marketing machine right now. She has credentials, and she's going to continue to march right up. She's got the dad, who with the connections, she is going places. Trevor Huddleston, Bruncati's third driver, running for Rookie of the Year, sits 6th in points. He's only 8 points back of Haley, so kind of a little close rookie battle going on right now there. Independent racer Cody Vanderwall is currently 7th in points. Independent racer Matt Levine is at 8th in points. Japanese racer Kakuma Koga is at 9th. And then veteran Todd Souza is currently 10th. And then Modifieds finish up this weekend. Next Sunday at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park at the famous 5/8 mile for the Sunoco World Series. Bozignor wrap this championship up like 3 or 4 races remaining over Chase Dallin, Doug Kobe, Timmy Solomito, and Craig Lutz. Mexican Series is off for 2 weeks. Euro Series finishes up in 2 weeks. ARCA finishes up in 2 weeks. And I believe F1 returns in a couple weeks. And yeah, everything finishes up in a couple weeks, looks like. So there's that. I try to wrap this stuff up. I pretty much hit on the big talking points. But anyways, on the channel, I am currently trying to finish up this car review. So expect that this week. Some either probably would be already out by the time the podcast gets out or something along the lines. And probably a little bonus video. for my Pathfinder that I just bought. And then as soon as I get this car review finished, I'll start getting my Pathfinder video worked on. And then, like, the actual review for the Pathfinder. And then next weekend, I'm working out the details, but tentatively scheduled do a film-in for a Wookie Drives review. And, yeah, this is a fun car. It's an American car. It's a car that I really enjoy. I think it's the pinnacle of that car. They've sort of, as the years have gone past since they've stopped making these cars, they're American classic, and they've kind of become jokes in hindsight. But I think this car is truly something special. And I think as time goes on, when these cars become cool again, this particular model will actually become highly sought after. But that's going to be a fun video to make as I talk about this car. But anyways, I'm finishing up. That was the Wookie Automotive Racing Ramblin' Podcast, Dover Cast Concrete Monster Mile Mash, whatever I want to call it this week. I'll figure it out. I don't know. Have a good one. Time to do my laundry. Have a good night.
We asked the whole town of Winter Harbor, Maine to sample Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. Here's what people said.
I've switched to Alka-Seltzer Plus, and I'll never go back to anything else.
When I take Alka-Seltzer Plus, it drained everything, from over my eyes, right down through my nose. My head is cleared right out beautiful.
That's why in Winter Harbor, over half the people who tried it are switching to Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine.
It worked on this one, the Harbor Cold Alka-Seltzer Plus did.
Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine for tough winter colds.